Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Dune Imperium. This was sent to me by Direwolf and is designed by Paul Denon. Dune Imperium blends deck building and worker placement in a deeply thematic new strategy game where the fate of the Empire hangs on your decisions. Will you seek political allies or rely upon military might, economic strength or subtle intrigues, a council seat or a sharpened blade? The cards are dealt, the choice is yours. The Imperium awaits. Let me show you how to play. So, in Dune Imperium, you are a leader of one of the great houses of the Landsrod. I've never read Dune in my life, so I'm going to pronounce all these wrong. I don't care. Defeat your rivals in combat, wield political influence, and form alliances with the four major factions you're successfully measured in victory points. Now, whenever you gain or lose a victory point, your marker goes up on this track here. At the end of a round, if anyone has reached 10 victory points or more, the game ends, and whoever has the most victory points wins. Or, if the conflict deck empties, that is also when the game ends. There are different leaders you can be. I'm not going to go through all these right now, but they all have two different type of abilities. The first is used during play, as described. The second is when you use your signet ring card, which I'll get into later. Each player starts with an identical 10-card deck. As in most deck building games, if you're unfamiliar, you shuffle your deck and then you draw cards. Whenever you get new cards, you add them to your discard pile. And when your deck runs out, you shuffle your discard pile, start a new deck. Thus, deck building. There are also ways to trash cards and remove them from your deck from the game to make your deck more efficient. Each player starts with 2 agents. These agents can go on spaces on the board and do actions. Later in the game, you can also unlock a 3rd agent. In Dune Imperium, agents and cards are tightly linked. You can't send an agent to a space without first playing a card. There's also the Mentat agent. This guy's a special freelance agent you can temporarily add to your roster for the round by activating his action space. Now, if we look here, we have these 4 factions. And these factions are powerful forces on Dune. Increasing your influence and earning an alliance with them is one of the key routes to victory. Every player starts with faction cubes at the bottom of each track. Throughout the game, your influence will increase or decrease. Whenever you send an agent to a faction's board space, you get to move up on that faction's influence track. When you reach 2 influence, you get a victory point. That's one of the ways to get victory points in the game. When you reach 4 influence, you get the bonus pictured in that part, and also the first player to do so gets an alliance with that faction, which gives them a victory point as well. You put in your supply. If they ever passed by another opponent, they must give the token to their opponent. But if blue takes it, then they would go up, bam, another victory point. Intrigue cards are special cards that or subterfuge, or backroom dealings, or twists. There are 3 types of them: plot, combat, and endgame. Plot cards can be played anytime during one of your agent or reveal turns. Combat intrigue cards only during combat, and endgame intrigue cards only at the end of the game. You can get these through different abilities and actions. But let's get into the meat of the game, the round structure. So, there are 5 phases. First, you do round start. Every round, you reveal a new conflict card. So here, first place gets a victory point. Second place gets water. Third place gets whatever the hell that is again, orange, spice, gets spice. Then each player will draw 5 cards from their deck. Starting with whoever has the first player marker, you take turns. So on your turn, you will take either an agent turn or a reveal turn. Generally, you'll take agent turns until you run out of your agents, and then you'll do a reveal turn. Once you've taken a reveal turn, you're done for the rest of the phase. Your turns are skipped until everybody has done their reveal turn. So, in an agent turn, you play one of your cards, face from your hand, face up, in front of you, using it to send an agent from your leader to an unoccupied space on the game board. So, for example, if I played the reconnaissance card, you can see there's 2 different labels here. This is for agent turns. This is for reveal turns. If we're sending an agent somewhere, we look at this blue circle symbol, and I can go, okay. I could go to one of these 4. I can't go here because I need at least 2 influence with the Freeman. But here, if I spend 2 water, I could go here, and these ones I can go to for free. So if I went on this space by playing that card, I would get 1 troop to my garrison down here for the conflict, and I would draw an intrigue card. In this case, it's a reinforcements card. Looks like you pay 3 coin, you get 3 troops. If it's your reveal turn, you may deploy any of these troops for the conflict. Pretty handy. And this can just be held in your hand until you're ready to use it. If somebody has an agent here, other players cannot send an agent there. It is now blocked. If a card has more than 1 icon on it, then you can choose which one. In this case, it's one of the 4 factions. Also, you can see here, it has actually an ability when you use it. In this case, as soon as you use this as an agent turn, you have to trash this card. It's a one-time use. Let's go over the conflict, since I mentioned deploying troops there. Basically, the cube actions will let you send troops to your garrison on the board. Now, these troops are just sitting here right now. But if you want to send them into combat, that's when you have to send an agent to a space with the crossed swords icon. So whenever you send, so for example, that space here has the crossed swords icon. So what I could do is I could deploy any or all troops recruited during my current turn. In this case, it was 1. So I could send 1 to the conflict. And then I can send up to 2 more from my garrison. So let's say I do that. Any troops you recruit but choose not to deploy are placed in your garrison. There are later conflict cards that will let you have control over certain regions. So, for example, let's say we fought over the Imperial Basin here, and somebody won it. You would then get to put your control marker on here. From now on, whenever any player, including you, sends an agent here, you get this bonus, in this case, 1 spice. And whenever a conflict card is revealed for a space that you already control, you receive a defensive bonus. You may deploy 1 troop from your supply directly to the conflict. There are 3 spaces on the board that let you get spice, the Great Flat, Haga Basin, and Imperial Basin. Whenever you place an agent there, well, in this case, you pay the cost, 2 water, but then you get 3 spice plus whatever is here. Spice will accumulate here. I'll explain that later, how that works. Now, let's say you've placed your 2 agents and you're basically done with your turn. Then you can do a reveal turn. A reveal turn, you show all the cards that are left in your hand, and you look at the bottom of each one. Every sword you reveal is worth 1 strength. You have to have at least 1 troop in the conflict, though, in order for it to do anything. So let's say blue ended this way and had 3 soldiers. Every soldier is worth 2 combat strength, so that'd be 6. And if I played an extra sword, that means blue's combat strength at the end is 7. The other symbols here are persuasion. You use these to buy new cards to add to your deck. So if I have 3 persuasion, I can go look up at the market here, and I can buy a card. The costs are all in the top right corner of each card. So for example, I could buy Gene Manipulation. This one lets you go to green and blue spaces with agents, and on an agent turn, you can trash a card, and if you have another Bean Jesuit card in play, you get 2 spice. Also, it's 2 persuasion if you use it as a reveal. So if I bought this card, it goes directly into my discard pile, and then you replace that card with a new card immediately. Once everyone has placed all their agents and done all their reveals, then it's time for combat, and that's when you look at where everybody's score is at the bottom. This is also when combat intrigue cards come into play. This one, for example, Master Tactician, I can play it, gives me 3 extra swords or 3 extra combat, or I can retreat up to 3 of my troops. Then you'll see who has the highest combat score at the end, and you will award these prizes accordingly. First place gets a victory point, second place gets a water token, third place gets a spice token. However, if you have 0 strength, meaning you didn't go to the fight at all, you're not eligible for prizes, even if you're second or third or whatever. Once all rewards have been given, you take all the troops you used in the conflict and return them to your supply. But troops that are still in your garrison stay there. If there are ties for this, first place, nobody wins. They each receive the second reward. And ties for second get the third, and so on. Then it's the maker's phase. You check these 3 spaces, and if there are no agents on these, then you're going to put a spice on each one. That way it makes these a little more enticing. And yeah, the next time somebody uses this space, they get all the spice that have been accumulated there. If any player, after all of that, is at 10 or more victory points, the game ends. Otherwise, prepare the next round. You return the Mentat, if anybody took that guy. Recall all your agents back to your possession, pass the first player marker, and do a new round. And again, you're just playing cards to put agents down and showing cards to buy cards. Now that's all fine and dandy, but let's actually look at what are some of the actions you can do. These ones are pretty straightforward. Again, just getting spice. Spice is currency you use for certain actions. Let's see. We also have adding troops to your garrison, or like I said, getting water tokens. These let you draw cards. These let you draw intrigue cards. If we look over at some of the faction ones, this lets you trash a card and draw 2 cards. This lets you draw an intrigue card, and everyone who has 4 or more intrigue cards must give you one at random. If you go up here, you can put a bunch of cubes or soldiers into your recruiting. But here, this one lets you get a fold space card. Fold space cards are these cards up here. The only way to get them is through that action. And they let you activate any agent space and let you draw a card, but they're a one-time use. I also forgot to mention there are these 2 cards up here. Arrakis Liaison, which is anybody can buy this at any time. It just gives you 2 influence when revealed. Or persuasion, or whatever the fuck. There's so many things in this. And then there's a Spice Must Flow card. This one's special in that it is worth 9 persuasion, but if you get one, it's a victory point. And they also give you 1 spice when revealed. A lot of these are pretty straightforward. These give you money, another type of currency. The Landsrad Council has some interesting spaces. For example, if you send an agent to the High Council, for the rest of the game, during each of your reveal turns, you gain 2 persuasion. It's a permanent bonus. You just put your little counselor token here to track that, and it makes cards cheaper for the rest of the game. This one lets you draw cards and get the Mentat, or whatever the fuck he's called. Yeah, the Mentat. And yeah, this guy is a temporary agent you can use for the round. This one is how you get your 3rd agent, or your Sword Master. If you pay 8 coins and place an agent here, you get your 3rd agent, and for the rest of the game, you have 3 agents you can place. And finally up here, this is where you can trade spice for money and just get money. And that's pretty much the game. You're just collecting different resources, using them to activate other resources, getting victory points through your faction influence, through combat, through the Spice Must Flow cards, and it's just a deck building game combined with a worker placement game. Now let's go through some of the leader powers and some of the cards in the game. I mean, just straight up, let's go with the cards first. Here's just some random ones I pulled up. Sardaukar Legion. If you use it as an agent card, it lets you recruit 2 soldiers. Otherwise, if it's a reveal card, not only do you get 1 persuasion, but you can deploy up to 3 troops from your garrison to the conflict. A Gunthopter. Each opponent loses a garrison troop. Bam! And also, as a reveal, it's 3 swords, and you can deploy a troop. Already showed that one. Firm Grip. You spend 2 coins as an agent action, and you can bump up your influence in one of those 3 factions. If you have an alliance with the Emperor, you get 4 persuasion as a reveal. Imperial Spy. You can use it to trash this card and get an influence card. So those are just some examples of, stuff that activates during reveals, stuff that activates during agent turns, and so on. Let's go through the leaders. We've got Count Ilban Riches. Whenever you pay coin for the cost of a board space, you get to draw a card. Oh, I forgot. I didn't explain the Signet Ring. Let me explain that. The Signet Ring is a special card that when you use it as on an agent turn, that's when you get to activate the signet power for each character. So this guy, whenever you use that card, you get a free coin. Paul Atreides, you can look at the top card of your deck at any time. He lets you draw a card when you use your Signet Ring. Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. At the start of the game, you secretly choose 2 factions. When you deploy 4 or more troops to the conflict in a turn, reveal them and gain 1 influence with each. So you get sort of like a head start on the faction trees. And his signet ring lets him spend a coin to get an influence card. Duke Leto Atreides, sending an agent to a green board space costs you 1 less. And for the signet ring ability, you spend a spice to gain 1 influence with a faction where an opponent has more influence than you. Glossu the Beast Rabban, he starts the game with additional resources, a spice and a coin. And his signet ring power is you can deploy 1 troop or 2 troops if you have at least 1 faction alliance. Helena Ritchie's enemy agents don't block your agents at green or blue board spaces, which is pretty good. Manipulate for the signet ring. Remove and replace a card in the Imperium row. During a reveal turn this round, you may acquire that removed card for one persuasion less. Countess Ariana Thorvald. Whenever you harvest spice, gain 1 spice less and draw a card. And she can get water with her hidden reservoir. Earl Memnon Thorvald. When you take a High Council seat, you get to get a free faction upgrade. He gets spice. And yeah, those are the different house leaders. But yeah, those are leaders and some of the cards in the game. And that's pretty much it. So I know nothing about Dune, and I think this game is absolutely fantastic. If you've seen enough of my reviews, you know I love deck building games, and this game is such an elegant combination of worker placement and deck building. Using cards to activate action spaces, and the rest you reveal them for different effects, and buying cards with them, it forces you to make very interesting decisions of, okay, both effects are good, but which one do I do? Do I use it as an agent card or a reveal card? Considering I love both genres, worker placement and deck building, I think this game is a great example of both, and a fantastic game when you blend them together into this delicious game genre smoothie. Having the conflict be another thing to worry about is really smart, especially when victory points are on the conflict cards. The game is really good about tempting you with so many directions. You want to upgrade your faction alliances. But if you don't go into the conflict, someone's gonna get that point. You want to buy cards instead. You're always being tugged between compelling choices, all of which are satisfying. There's a lot of thought into making different aspects of the game interesting. The hidden intrigue cards are really fun. They're like little trap cards. The fact that you can control those areas, almost like a Monopoly, like, you used my tile, I get a bonus. The card combos on the cards themselves are really well done. It's just full of interesting, satisfying mechanics. And like I said, even though I know nothing about Dune, I still deeply enjoyed this. If you're a Dune fan, this is a must-buy. And even if you're not a Dune fan, still very highly recommended. I think it's a great game. And again, I know nothing about this Dune or Dane or whatever this is called. It's that good of a game.